We did the thing! I've got a lot to say about this one, so grab your popcorn. If you don't have any, 2 tablespoons of olive oil in a small saucepan over high heat. When it starts smoking, add a 1/4 cup of kernels and put the lid on. While the kernels do vicious battle with each other, shake the pot vigorously until they settle down. Take it off the heat, salt to taste, and optionally finish with clarified butter. If you don't have it, there's a link in the description. Alright, time for the breakdown. We've now entered the second half of Redux, or as we like to call it, the villains half. They were largely absent from 1 through 5, but now that they're here, you better believe they're here to stay. Redux Chapter 6 begins with the Adam character short, moves on to Chapter 7, then to 8. Real quick before you send us a strongly worded letter, the follow-up to the coffee scene is not gone, it's just moved, okay? Okay. And then all the way back to Chapter 2. Oh, and technically these as well. Shout out to Blue Cheese for unknowingly predicting the contents of this chapter. I hereby bestow you with this certificate. But hold on a second. Isn't the Adam short part of Volume 6? That is true. We are technically cheating here, but not without good reason. I would describe Sienna Khan's presence in Volume 5 as short-lived, so we'll take what we can get. We've been excited for Chapter 6 for a long time, and it's certainly one of our favorites. One of the reasons why is because it's where we really start to use editing to create brand new ideas. An example of this is our solution to the infamous bird scene, lest we forget. In the original, Ranger is in disbelief. Yang is mad, and Ozpin spends the better part of 2 minutes trying to justify the morality of the gift of flight. We still keep Oscar's surprise. He is new to this after all. But now nobody else cares. In fact, they immediately see the benefit, and Ruby asks if he's done it with others. Jean saying,
"What else is new?"
was originally in response to Nora accusing Ozpin of messing with them. But now it conveys that they've seen so many crazy things over the years that nothing surprises them anymore. Have I mentioned that I love editing? Another Redux exclusive story beat is this brief little flashback. I saw this moment of solace as an opportunity to take a bit of a glimpse into Ruby's thoughts. Using 2 short cutaways, we communicate that she misses Blake, but also that she's reminiscing on the impact Blake's disappearance has had on Yang. A previous version of this scene actually only cut to Blake, but we found that showing both her and Yang helped to emphasize how much Ruby worries about others ahead of herself. Oh yeah, pro editing tip of the week. If your project is running at 24 frames per second, you might have noticed that importing footage that runs at 30 results in a rather unpleasant stutter. One way to resolve this is by using optical flow to smooth it out, but slowing the footage down to 80% speed gives you a 1-to-1 frame rate match, and a pseudo slow-mo effect is a bonus, which is what we do for this shot. Alright, pro tip over. Now for the patch notes. The missing eyes on this guy have been restored for a few frames. There's dozens of new sound effects in the fight scenes. Punches are punchier, guns are beefier, and Sienna's whip is more whippy. Adam makes effort noises now, including a chuckle supplied by yours truly. I'll just add that to my demo reel. An alarm goes off in the facility when the lights turn red. And this robot explosion, so good. Just to name a few. A tasteful amount of blood was added to this scene to emphasize Adam's mania. Even in this shot, where it's barely visible, and yet I still matched the camera movement, manually created shadows, and then made splats for when it hits the ground. No one will see this. Why do I do this? Oh yeah, and Sienna's death is no longer squeaky clean either. The musical sting that plays when Adam kills Sienna is also used at the beginning to further lean into the call and response of the chapter. And finally, Adam no longer speaks in the final shot, instead taking a deep breath supplied by yours truly. I'm on a roll. To better understand why this arrangement of Adam's scenes fills us with so much joy, we must first explore how the original presented them. Sienna Khan is mentioned by name in Volume 4, but the moment she appears for the first time, she dies. And then, because of Volume 5's chronology, Gira mentions Adam's plan to overthrow Sienna, which we've already seen, and says he's sending his swiftest messenger to warn Mistral, which we know doesn't work. And then, 2 episodes later, we hear about how Adam's plan was successful, which we'd still already know. Back to Redux. Gira mentions Adam's plan to replace Sienna as the leader of the White Fang and sends his messenger. In the same chapter, we learn that Gira's messenger dies. We then introduce Sienna Khan as a character through a flashback and establish her working relationship with Adam. Sienna says,
"You might just find yourself standing beside me at my throne.
And now that line functions as foreshadowing. And finally, we end on the betrayal. At this point, there's a dramatic irony at play. The audience is aware of Adam's plan to overthrow Sienna, but doesn't yet know whether or not he'll succeed. About a year ago, I screened Volume 5 Redux to a friend of mine who had never seen Ruby before, but caught up on Volumes 1 through 4 so they could watch the edit. For the entirety of this scene, they were constantly remarking on Adam's position in the room, getting more and more on edge with each step closer to Sienna he took. The suspense was functioning exactly as intended, and to say that I was happy to see these reactions would be a severe understatement. A climactic scene confusingly placed in the first act now serves as the turning point of our edit. Blood has been shed, the plan to destroy Haven is in motion, and the third act of Volume 5 Redux begins. It's so cool! That being said, starting and ending with Adam rather dramatically changes the tone of the chapter, and that's part of the reason much of the dinner table scene was left out of this one. But there wasn't really anywhere else for it to go, so sorry. For the sake of a later story beat, it was necessary that we include the arm wrestle at some point, but the sudden transition from quiet to loud creates a bit of whiplash. If you needed a reminder that Redux is not a substitute for the original Volume 5, this is it. Yes, it's one of our favorites, but I can very easily imagine some people not liking what we do, and to be clear, that's okay. Seeing how varied people's thoughts have been has been part of the joy of making this project. Although, if we catch any of you harassing other people in the comments, a couple people have asked about whether or not we plan on making a movie cut of Redux, stringing all 10 chapters together into one unit. Yes, absolutely. The runtime of Redux all up is about 2.5 hours after all, and that makes it inherently suitable to the format of a feature film. I can't say with confidence when it will happen though. There's still a bit of work that needs to be done to ensure that each chapter transitions seamlessly, and that'll inevitably require some tweaks. But it will happen, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, that's all from me. Catch you later.